So in addition to using other people's functions or method or packages, we can also define our own functions that we can use in my other files. So in C, we do similar things, right? So we define some functions in one file, and then we can use those functions in another file. So in JavaScript, we can also do it in a very similar way. So this is how we include libraries in C. Like we can use include studio.h, and this is how we do in JavaScript, like import fs from fs. So this is actually, the fs is actually a built-in library of JavaScript or Node.js. So you do not need to use git install to install this file, fs lab package. So it's built in by JavaScript. So JavaScript has some built-in libraries that you can use directly, and fs is one of the most popular or commonly used ones. It allows you to use the files. So we'll talk about database a little bit in this course. So this is how we can get information from a file that you store in your laptop or in your repo. So we can use this fs library, and it's built in. And there are also other built-in libraries. So when we click on it, we provide this link in the slide. You can see these are the built-in modules that you do not need to use npm install. You only need to use include, and then you can use them. And HTTP is the one that we'll use in this course. FS is one that we'll use in this course. And the syntax is also a little bit different. So instead of include, we use import from. Yeah, so let's have a try and see how it works. So I'm going back to my, so I'm saving it as a path.js file. So import path from path. You can see that we do not need to install it using npm install. We can use it directly, and we can run node in path.js. It will get the current path, like where are you at the moment. So there are a couple that you may find useful, but this is basically how you use it. Like instead of include, we use import. So this is the syntax. And we can also import it from our own file. So we can use others package on the npm platform. We can use built-in JavaScript modules, but we can also import in our own files. So for example, where's our code? Okay, so in this folder, we have a file called split before, and we define a function. So this is a recap of how we define JavaScript function. Instead of having a return type, we have function, and then the function's name, and the parameters, and then the main body of the function. So recap of how we use functions in JavaScript. And then what this function, many string function, does is it repeats the string for repeat number of times. So for example, if we have many string, 5 hello, it will repeat this string hello for 5 times. A recap of how we put strings together is like we can use plus. We can use the plus symbol so we can combine 2 strings together. So this many string function, let's run it so that you can have a better understanding. Yeah, so now I need to cd to this folder. So node, this file is called split dash before.js. This is what is console log. So hello, hello, hello for 5 times. So what if we want to have a function in a separate file so that we have all relevant functions in one file, and then we call those functions in another file? So we'll create another file called split after lab, and we have this function defined in this file. And to be able to use the function in another file, we need to export this function. at the bottom. So we need to export this function so that we can use this function in another file. So this is the syntax. So because there's only one function that we want to export in this file, so we can basically use export default. So export default is to be used when there's only one function in the file, so that we only want to export this. Sorry, there's only one function in this file, and we only export one function. So we use export default. And we can have another like main file, like split after main. And in this file, we import this function from this file so that we can use this function in this new file. So this is the syntax in JavaScript, like how we can define functions in one file and call the function in another file. Okay, so let's try to run it. So what we can do now is by run split after and main.js, you can see that still hello, 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 hello for 5 times. Do we have any question so far?
To import from one to another, do they have to be in the same directory, or can you do it from like one folder somewhere else and still import?
The question is, do we need to have the library file and the main file and the one folder, or can we have one folder having all the functions that we want to export and the main in another folder? The answer is yes. So as long as you put the directory properly here, you can still use the file in any folder. So you can just add it where is it, like the directory, to get access to the library file. Yeah, question.
Is it relative to the current file, or is it relevant to the whole system? The comp name that I'm going to insert.
Sorry, can you repeat it?
The comp name that I'm going to insert here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just relevant to the file, the current file that I'm writing code on, right?
Yes. So how you can get access to this file from your current directory. So this is, yeah. Any question? So I have a question. So what if in this file there's more than one function that I want to export? What should I do? But this is quite common, right? So you may define a lot of functions in one file, and you want to export all of them or some of them so that more than one function can be called in another file. Right? So this can be very common. So what we can do is we can have something like this. So we can have 2 functions defined in this file, this library file, and we export both of them. Right, so we can export more than one, and then we can call them by using the bracket. So we can import both functions from this file, and then we can use both functions in the main file. Yep. So these are 2 ways that we can import and export. So one is when there's only one when there's only one function that we want to export, we can use export default. But if there are 2 functions or more than one functions we want to export, and this is the syntax that we use when we want to export more than one. But we can still have something like, so we can still use this syntax if there's only one thing that we want to export, the bracket one. This is more flexible. You can have one, you can have more than one. It is more flexible. There's also another interesting thing about the default export. For the default export, remember, have a look at here. So the function we define here is called many-string, and we export this, default export this many-string. However, in here, like when we want to use many strings from this library file, we can change the name. So instead of many string, we can say string many. And then it will still work because there's only single function that we export. So when we import, we can change the name. And JavaScript or Node.js still know which function we are importing to this file because there's only one single function. So we can change the name to cater off needs for the specific features that we want to have or functions we want to have. So you can change the name when we use default export. But we can't change the name when we use, sorry, go back. I'll change it. But we cannot change name when using the bracket export, so the normal export. Like so for example, we export many strings and add brackets here. Can we change many strings to string many? No, we can't. The reason is that we export multiple functions, and when you change the name, it doesn't know whether you read something wrong or you are referring to another function in the original library file. Right, so you need to keep the name the same. You cannot change the name. Yep.
And Python, when you import functions from other libraries, you could do something like import random as R, and then you could rename it like that. So
Yeah.
could you do something similar with multiple functions here?
That's a very good question. So we mentioned that when we use bracket to export and import, I said that you cannot change the name here because otherwise it won't know which function you are trying to referring to from the original library file, right? But the question is, can we do something to change the name here? So the answer is yes. We can still change the name by many string as string many. So now when you use string many instead of many string, it knows that you are actually referring to many string from the original file that where you exported to. Yeah, so you still have the flexibility to change name, but this is the syntax, like how you change. You cannot use that directly like this, no. But when you use the as syntax, you can, yeah. So the question is, does the order matter? No, only the name matters, so it knows which function they are looking for. Yeah, any question? Yeah, cool. Let's go back to the slides. So we have already seen this. I already have a look at here. Checked. Yeah, already mentioned. Yeah, so in summary, there are two ways of export and import. So we have default export and named export. And we in generally prefer the named one. So the named one is more preferred because it adds flexibility to your code design because you can add more exports later. So there's no strings, like you can only have one export in the library file, right? And it also means that you have to reuse the same name so that it's can be better, like to avoid any confusion. Because for the default export, you have the flexibility to change the name whatever you want. It's really hard to go back to the file and find exactly where you exported from or imported from. So yeah, so named export is more preferred than the default export. Yeah, we also mentioned this one. Yeah, when there's a lot of functions that you want to import, you can put them in separate lines. Like when you have a large project and there are many functions that you want, you can put them in the separate lines. Perfect. We have done it. Yeah, any question about exporting and importing? Modify, all good. Perfect. Cool, amazing. We'll have 5 minutes to answer questions about other stuff. Not about the lecture, but other stuff about the course, if you have any. No? Iteration 0. Iteration 0 has already been released. So a good starting point is to message your team members on Teams. Let them know that it has been released. Set up time to read through the spec together and to allocate tasks. Yeah, we have a video in it by Hayden, and it's pretty useful. You can see Hayden from week 4 this term. So Hayden will start teaching from week 4 this term. All good? All good? Okay, thank you.